Okay, we're recording live.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for stopping by, guys. We have an awesome guest for you today. Please welcome entrepreneur, mom, and best-selling author Tamara Loehr. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, absolutely great. Thank you. And you got my name right. Bonus.
I looked it up. No.
Yeah, before the show, Devin was going through the Google apps. They were trying to get it, and it was coming back in these.
No, I didn't Google it.
You didn't Google it?
I knew it. No.
Oh, you
And
do it.
right
Yeah,
is
yeah.
usually what I get from most Americans. So
Oh,
there you go. Well done. We're off to a good start.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and actually, our episode today, Dev, is sponsored by. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
No, check it out. Yeah, it's sponsored by Covenant House, guys. They're an awesome organization in Vancouver, and they help homeless youth. Hollyhock also, check it out, on the island for future education and personal sharing. Other than that, yeah, let's get to it. Are we going to do the two truths and a lie?
Yes. So every show, what we do is we do two truths and a lie with our guest, and Devin and I have to guess which is the lie, or multiple lies. There could be multiple lies in there too. So, okay, everybody ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Number one, Tamara started her first business at age 19. Yeah, it's plausible. Hey, what do you think? Yeah. Okay, number two, Tamara is originally from Brisbane, surfers paradise area in Australia, but doesn't surf. That'd be a pretty hard one to do, to not surf living there. Tamara is a founding member of the Young Presidents Organization Impacts chapter. That's super cool. As well as a YPO Hollywood, as YPO Hollywood chapter. Wow. Okay. And another one here. This is a good one. Tamara is in the beauty industry, but spends less than 5 minutes on average on her beauty regime in the morning. Okay. Oh, okay. And I got one last one here. Tamara is a global recognized entrepreneur, mom of 2 young girls, wife and artist, and former songwriter, and she's a forever painting.
Hey.
I believe that one. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna throw another one in here. Her EA sent me here.
Another one?
Oh, one more. There's like 15 here. Tamara has a 2-meter long goanna living under her house and regularly has kangaroos eating on her front lawn. Yeah.
Oh, man.
This is the stuff you believe about Aussies, right? You
Yeah.
all think that we're riding kangaroos to school. Is that it?
That's it. That's what Crocodile Dundee told us.
Oh,
Yeah, see, that one just lives up the way. So it must be.
Yeah. So what are you thinking, Dev?
Man, I'm just confused now.
So he got started the business at age 19.
Yeah,
I believe
that.
Yeah,
I'd take that.
Yeah.
I'd totally.
Lives in Surfers Paradise, or around Surfers Paradise, but does not surf.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Founder of YPO Impacts chapter. Okay. Also is in the beauty industry, but spends us 5 minutes on average, right?
Right.
And a globally recognized entrepreneur, mom of 2 young girls, wife, and an artist.
Yeah. Okay. I go with that.
And the goanna living under the deck.
goanna living under the deck.
Don't forget the goanna.
Goanna is like 2 meters, I think 6 feet long.
Oh, they're huge. At
Massive.
least.
Yeah, I don't know if the iguana is eating a kangaroo at some point, but okay, I'm gonna go with that's the iguana. Maybe there's an iguana living underneath the deck, but it doesn't eat kangaroos. But also, I think originally from Brisbane, Surfers Paradise, but does surf.
Yeah.
You reckon that's the lie?
Yeah, I think the goanna. I think the goanna under the deck. That's a massive animal. It's 2 meters.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going for the surfer doesn't surf, and I'm going for the goanna.
Surf and also the iguana. I don't know. There's a feeling about that.
Okay. Okay, you're going for both. Okay, Tamara.
You need to watch my Instagram page. I definitely have a goanna underneath my deck. It's a good thing because they keep away the massive snakes that live here. And I see massive snakes every couple of days. So that's good. And kangaroos are on my lawn. You'll see them on my Instagram when I go walking. And they're massive. They're nearly as tall as me. I do not surf, and I'm not from Surfers Paradise. So there you go.
And you don't surf. Oh,
No,
but your kids surf.
My
Your
daughters
kids all
do,
surf.
yeah, but
Yeah.
not me. So there you go. That's I never could
Wow.
quite. I could get up, but I was more of a stunt person. So, I figured it wasn't a good look. And I think I got caught in a reef when I was quite young surfing and just scraped a lot of blood. So I thought that wasn't good considering the amount of sharks in Australia. I should just quit. So here I am. I live to tell.
That's funny. All our kids, they surf, and I started when I was 40. They kind of dragged me out there and come on, Dad. And I'm like, and I'm totally addicted to it. I love it. I'm not very good. I'm not very good, but I just love surfing. Yeah. Yeah. And
nice, but it's brutal here, where it's big waves.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing. Like if they're nice,
I like
long, big push, it's good. But yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I'm getting much kind of mellower now. Just if I look out, if it's too big, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go out. It's crazy. I'll just go if it's nice and mellow on my big long board and just have some nice rides and then call it a day and go for a beer.
Nice. I like it. That's your boardroom, as they call it.
Yeah, that's my boardroom. That's my boardroom. Exactly. So you're a fascinating person. So you belong to EO, right, in Hollywood, and YPO Hollywood, and also I'm really interested to hear a little bit about the YPO Impacts chapter. I've never actually heard about a YPO Impacts chapter.
Yeah, I mean EO originally. So I got into EO. It's funny how your tribe really does impact your trajectory and the way that you think. And, I think really your purpose, defining your purpose and, why are you in business? So EO was fantastic for me. Being the president in the third year of a very large chapter was also great. And then, graduating to YPO, I was obviously most of my business comes from America, and that's where my focus is. So interestingly enough, I couldn't get into a Queensland chapter. They didn't really have women. So there you go.
Oh
Goes
my
to show
gosh.
how behind we are.
Wow.
But I was commuting anyway. They said, join Sydney. I joined Sydney, but I was actually going to Sydney just before them. So I was in LA more often. So I decided to join the Hollywood chapter, and they accepted the crazy Aussie, which was nice. And the chapter's quite diverse. There was 40% females in it. But when COVID hit, I've always stood for impact in business, but when COVID hit, I couldn't obviously see my tribe. And it's interesting, yourself, you were in EO for 18 years.
Mm-hmm.
When you can't be around them and you can't access them, it becomes very lonely very quickly. So I started mentoring a group of women in EO and YPO and tried to bring the two together. Because there's a real issue during COVID, a number of issues. Number one was obviously women had to do homeschooling, and as parents, as mothers, our whole rhythm map, as I call it, was completely turned upside down. And secondly, we needed to pivot to digital, which is my wheelhouse, and a lot of businesses hadn't done that and remain relevant. And the third thing was women had half the runway to survive in their businesses, usually due to the fact that they don't have access to capital to be able to ride out those moments. So those three things I saw as quite concerning going into COVID. So I started, a forum and brought them together, which was great, from EO and YPO, and we did it virtually. And then I was approached actually by someone who was on the impacts committee for YPO, and they're looking at strategically, how can we shift YPO, and evolve, I guess would be the right word, evolve YPO to be impacts driven. What does that look like? And they've actually got a committee set up to do that. And coming from this stance of, business as a force for good, and how do we bridge the gap in female entrepreneurship? Those two things they approached and said, would you like to be part of the founding members? And that was a really good opportunity to set up a chapter based on not the existing legacy rules, but what we feel is the right thing to do. So we have, you have to be an impact-focused business. We're very much committed to net positive, which is Paul Polman's Drive. He's ex-CEO Unilever. Great book if you want to get a hold of that, Net Positive. We've got parity. We've got equality, 50% females and male members. A mix, which is great. So, we've got like hundreds of people who want to get into the impacts chapters that are guys. And we're like, well, that's fine, but you got to go find us a female member that qualifies.
Right.
Which
Excellent.
is good. Yeah. That's our bottleneck, which is a good bottleneck in this case. Really making sure that we're diverse as far as we're from all over the world. So all types of backgrounds, religions, beliefs, businesses, but all common values, which is really important. I kind of feel like our forum is, how it wouldn't be great if the world looked this way, where everybody shows up. There's no judgment. There's, we're all there to learn from each other and our experiences. And the last thing is a mix of YPO Gold and YPOers, which I really love because I'm 5 years away from 40 and I'm just getting started. So, the fact that I've got to be put out to pasture at 50 kind of seems a bit of a lost opportunity, if you know what I mean. There's so much wisdom in YPO Gold members. I love speaking to YPO Gold members. So bringing those two together, I think is beautiful because, when you're saying I have teenagers, they're like, they can reflect on that and perhaps offer some advice.
I remember EO did something like that. I don't know if it was 20 years ago or 15 years ago, where it was YEO, YPO, right? Young. Well, we were all in, but we all became old. Like we all became 40 pretty quick. And then what EO did is they changed the whole thing, and they had another chapter called WEO, World Entrepreneur, which was anybody over 40. So then we kind of opted it out. And then it just stayed kind of the same thing, because I think they realized that, the older people and the younger people all had, there was so much wisdom there.
You make it OEO.
OEO, yeah.
Old entrepreneurs.
Old entrepreneurs. That's right. In the home, in our wheelchairs. But what also is something that's been really interesting, and I don't know if I think YPO might be involved. EO's had the Birthing a Giants program, et cetera, all out at MIT and Boston, and our chapter, our group of 75 entrepreneurs, we've been together for, I think it's 18 years this year. It's a 3-year program, but we just opted to keep it going. And now there's guys in there, mid 60s all the way through. And it's because it's exactly what you're saying. There's so much value there, is why they're going to get rid of you when you hit 40, where you're really just starting to get going.
Exactly. And, I also did the Birthing of Giants, the Entrepreneurs Masters program, as they call it now.
That's right.
About 5 years ago. So I'm part of the alumni, and one of the guests was Warren Rusting.
Yes, he's fantastic. He's great. I mean, I don't know how old he is now, but he did a talk for us on Zoom during COVID, and he's timeless. He is. He's fantastic. I love him.
Yeah. Well, I love one of his sayings. Two actually. He always says that you start to peak as an entrepreneur in your 60s. So I love that. And I can see that now, how that works. And then the second thing is that you're not a success in business if you fail at home. So those were the two things of many things that I took out of MIT, which I think is great, because everyone thinks they're going there to figure out how do they accelerate their growth, but really it's a much deeper conversation about how do we use our business as a force for good. And I remember them saying, there's 60 of you in the room and you've been hand selected. What could you do collectively together? And I can't help but think positively about that when I look at YPO and the fact that we turn over $9 trillion in America alone. And what would that look like if that was put to good use? But then I'm also mindful that I'm sure there's some members as well that are part of the 3,000 companies, top companies that do $2 trillion worth of damage to the environment every year. So we also need to address that elephant in the room. So, there's some deep discussions, but needed discussions would be what I would say. YPO, it's a beautiful community.
It is, yeah. The YPO and the EO community, they're all fantastic. And like I was saying, when we first, like yourself, when we first went to the MIT, the Birthing of Giants and the entrepreneurs master's program, we were all kind of young, full of vim and vigor, young kids. And it was like, how do I build my business? And it was bottom line, how do we do that? Right. And then 5 years goes by, 8 years goes by. And then people are starting to think, oh, okay, how do I actually use my business to make an impact? How do I use my business to do good? Because our kids are now teenagers where they're all, young. And now how do we, balance our family and what I say is I don't like you say, I don't like this balance thing. I like to call it a life rhythm. Once you get into the rhythm and the flow, everything just opens up for you. And that's how our group has become in Boston now. Again, it's 18 years since we've been going, and we started, we were probably in our mid 30s, and now I'm turning 60. This week, St. Patty's Day, and it's really the dynamics and everything has completely changed from day one to now. On the speakers that come in, like Warren and people like that, they're coming in, and we're just in a different time, and it's been a really. That's one thing, and people I've been on podcasts and whatnot as well, and people say, what are some of the things that you would say to younger people? And I would say, well, one of the best things that ever happened to me is I got dragged in kicking and screaming into EO, into a conclave of, kind of like-minded people doing the same thing. Got kicking and screaming because I had no time. I was too busy. I had young kids. I was running a business. I was trying to survive. And a massive 300-pound football player buddy of mine that had joined EO after he retired from football grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and literally grabbed me and took me to a meeting. And I'd never looked back from that point. It's just been absolutely incredible. And then the forum groups in there, when you have a smaller group, which we're accountable to, have been lifelong friends. And we're now going to we're going to their kids' weddings. We all started when the kids were like 3 or 4 years old. Now we're going to their
sounds
weddings.
like AA for business people, but but I don't think people really get that until they're in it. And forum's quite magical. I think it has a lot to do with the 5%ers, in the way that it's structured, and just being able to focus, on yourself. I guess when you're in business, you're pulled in so many different directions. And I think the 3 things that I love about Forum is it's not focused on just business. It's personal, family, and business. And the whole idea of that is and it's a very, very true fact that if one part isn't functioning, then the other 2 can't either. Mm-hmm. So, how do we make sure? And I actually talk more around the 5 extensions of being inside my community, because I've kind of created Forum for women who can't access it, because the issue that I found was, not an issue, but, I had to get to $1 million in revenue, which was US. And then 20 million in US, which is 30 million Australian, just to get into IPO before you're 40.
I know.
So, that changed my life. It took me 10 years to get to $1 million, because I was the biggest fish in the room. No one else started businesses at 19. No one else had staff that I grew up with in a small town in North Queensland. Yeah. So, I didn't do an MBA. I didn't go to a private school. So all of this stuff was, self-taught based on the fact that I love to problem solve and I'm a creative. But had I had access to that community earlier, I could have, I know I would have accelerated a lot further. And, it took me 10 years to get to $1 million. It took me 2 years to get to 10, just through the quality of the people that I was surrounding myself with. And, as I wrote down at MIT, actually, on my diary that, mentorship and this tribe, this network had changed my life. And when I get to a point where I can give back, that's how I'm going to give back, which is what I'm doing. And, we create kind of forums, which we call circles, for women who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, to help them take the leap. And then for existing entrepreneurs who are at 1 million, helping them fast track to get to IPO status before they run out of time, so to speak. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years, and I think giving women access to that forum environment is very very in line with who we are as women, because we used to come together in circles. We used to sit around and the elders would share with the younger ones, and we've lost that connection. We've lost that sisterhood. So I've applied a lot of the principles out of forum into circles, simply because I know it works as far as deep connections and transformation. And when you step into your purpose, when you step up and start a business, it really does transform your life, and in turn can transform the world. But we need more women taking that lead.
I absolutely agree. I've been so fortunate to be in a bunch of different organizations and a bunch of different forum groups. And I was in, also was in a group called Tiger 21 in another forum group, and we were all men. Our forum was all men. And I really notice when more women were getting into our EO forum and our MIT forum, that things shift and things change. And I found that with the all male forum, there's a lot. I mean, I'm a man and I'm talking, there's a lot of testosterone. There's a lot of, I've got the bigger whatever yacht or the, stuff, where I find when the women, it's more of a nurturing, it's more of a community form. It's hard to explain, but I really find that it kind of brings us, the men are kind of out wrestling in the dirt, and the women, it's just great. And I find myself having more relationships with a lot of these incredibly amazing women that are making a change in the world. And I got a lot of men friends, but to really get down to the nitty gritty and talking about really things that matter, it just happens to be, it's on the women's side of it. And so I find it extremely powerful, in what you're doing as well. And so it's great. And your book. So you have a book, and I like what you say. Balance is BS, right? So do you want to tell us a little bit about? Yeah.
Got a mouse.
It's funny, yeah, because our daughter Kina, who's like I think like your daughter's like totally in the woods and backcountry skiing and surfing every chance she gets, but she took off right after high school, like the day after, and took off for 3 months to Australia, New Zealand, rented a little car and drove all over and tented for 3 months with a couple of other friends. She came back and she had a big water bottle, those big water bottles, and it had stickers all over it. And I was like, where the heck did you get that? He says, oh, the Aussies. Yeah, they have, kind of a, like you said, that mouth, that the stuff it says on these stickers is I can't repeat it on this.
Don't look up the Western New Zealand, Northern Territory. Sorry. Don't look up the Northern Territory marketing campaign.
Yeah.
See, the Northern Territory is what they say. And it's literally the marketing campaign. I'm like, a government paid for this.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane. That's where I'm showing my age. I'm like, that word's forbidden, and now we've got it in our marketing, and it's gone off. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's like every
still a little rough around the edges, but it makes for good entrepreneurs, I must say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have. I mean, here in Vancouver, like at Vancouver Whistler, like it's mostly Aussies that are working up there, and they're completely crazy, and they're just a riot. Just absolute riot all the time.
We'll try anything once.
Yes. Yeah.
At least one.
Oh man.
But,
so your book there, Balance is BS.
Yeah.
How to have have a work-life blend, right?
Yes.
That's kind of what you're more so actually when did you write the book?
Well, I didn't, which is really interesting. I think I was tricked into it by my mentor. They're good at that, aren't they? And, I was journaling on the plane because, I love the fact that when you're on a plane, there's no phones, it's the worst time to watch a movie. In fact, I'm like, why would you do that? It's right. Just this, because you're elevated, you don't have kids, around you saying mum every 5 seconds, you can think. So I love to use that time to journal. So I started journaling on different things around, what was it like? Because my mentor was particularly interested in, and how does entrepreneurship look for a woman who's a mom and a creative and, doing that huge commute. Not a little commute, it's a big commute. So, I started journaling on that. And then he suggested that perhaps I share my story, thinking, why would anyone want to know, about me? Like, I'm not famous or anything. But I think it's more that story of, starting so young and not having that traditional, elite background in order to get into entrepreneurship. I mean, my family's a third generation mining company. So, here I am trying to save the world and they're still digging holes in the ground. So, and all my friends from high school, their kids have graduated high school and mine are just getting out of primary. So, there's a huge difference between our upbringings and where, we all ended up. But so I started sharing that, and he suggested that I share that. But what we did was we made it into a workbook. And I guess it's fundamentally the fact that a lot of people, their perception of me is quite interesting. I would go to pick up the kids from school, straight from the airport, and, they'd literally pat me and go, oh, you poor thing, you've been without the kids for 2 weeks. And thinking that I compromised, sacrificed family in order to choose business. And I really wanted to make it clear that there is another way. You can blend it all together, because when you own your own business, you get to run it your way. So you don't have to do this, long hours, this corner office, this, these things that don't work for women and raising kids, and just women who want to explore. I mean, I didn't have children until I was 32. And, for the first whole 10 years of running a business, I was traveling the world. I was writing songs. I was doing all the things that I was really passionate about. I was developing blocks of units in the city and doing crazy stuff. Good Rich Dad, Poor Dad book,
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
When I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, being able to give women this roadmap and some exercises for how they can blend their life and really, not have to compromise on their values. So that's where it all starts. The book is very much about, how do you blend all of these things together so you don't have to compromise? How do you still create wealth without having to say, okay, I've got a family now, I'm putting my career on hold. So it's more of a workbook for you to be able to know what to say no to. And, it's more important what you say yes to, being clear on your values so that you can, fast track through decision making, because we've all got a few battle scars in business. And I'm sure when we look back and reflect on that, it was a misalignment of one of our core values. And your core values don't very rarely change. And then how do you give yourself and then others permission to blend? So, we don't do 9 to 5. For the last 12 years, I've never had the corner office. Everyone works from home. There's KPIs, there's not set hours. I'm very vulnerable in my business. I share everything, I share what's good, what's bad. And we're part of that mission. And you would know this, that you don't get to over 10 million in revenue as a self-made entrepreneur. It's the team that's with you that really does drive that. Exactly. So, how do you create that environment and give women the opportunity to, have a beautiful pathway into entrepreneurship? I've quite often given equity to them, or, one lady's been with me for 15 years and she wanted to have 3 kids and work from home. So that's what she does. And she, has everything that she wants in her rhythm map. So everyone's different, and it's really about making sure that we give ourselves permission to blend. So my house is, I live on the beach. My team can come and see me. If they want to see me during my blockout hours, then, when I'm with my family, then they're bringing their kids or their dog and we're walking on the beach and we're talking about business while the kids are swimming. Or if there's a board meeting and I've got a kid in a tennis tournament, then I'm choosing the tennis tournament and I'll dial into the board meeting. And I do not apologize. I say, I'm here because I want to be here for my child's, tennis match. And I asked for permission. Would you mind if I dial in? And there may be some background noise, but I'd love to share and add value when the time allows in between matches. And just something as simple as asking for permission to be a parent and show up.
Yeah.
I just don't know where we went wrong, where we
I know. I don't know where it's crazy, because I had the same experience as you when I was younger and we were starting up our business. This is 1992, starting up the business. I'd be away 6 weeks at a time, because I would hit Asia and I would come out, and I'd hit Australia and I'd come back, and then Dylan and Devin and Kina were born, and they were little, and I was gone 6 weeks at a time, all the time. And but I just thought, well, I'm doing it for my family. I'm building this for the family. And then again, the football player fellow grabbed me again, and he gave me a bit of a shake. Says, Nigel, do you realize that you're just not there for your family? You need to be at their, they're starting to play hockey. You need to be at their hockey games and their football matches. You can't just be in Asia for 6 weeks all the time. And then I really did think about that, but I don't think I noticed it. I was just head down, going hard. And then I really made a conscious shift from that moment on to always be there as much as I could for every single match. And what I see, and it's really scares me, is in all of these entrepreneurial conclaves that I've belonged to, that formula that I was stuck in, I see it all the time, but they never get out of it. I'm just a little bit. Well, I just need a little bit more to do that. I need my family will be fine. And now we're all at the age. A lot of us are at the age where we're mid 50s, 60s. People are on these are the male side of it. They're second, third wives, kids. They don't know their kids. They don't. And I'm like, you know what? Time went like that. Life went like that. And now suddenly you don't know your family. It's really scary. And so what you're doing there, I think this is one of the most critical things, and a big shout out, like, for entrepreneurs or us entrepreneurs to really recognize, is the family is the most important thing. Our families are the most important thing. Never. And I also wrote a book too, and it's called Take That Leap, Risking It All for What Really Matters. And what I allude to in that is I always say, no business crisis is worth losing your family over. No business crisis is worth losing your family over. And it's true. But you see it all the time.
I think, a lot of what I'm trying to teach my kids through business is the fact that, stop avoiding struggle. Like the younger generation is being fed by us these businesses that take away things that are struggle, and also give them instant gratification. And so I like to share the struggles with them, because in the struggles are the lessons. Exactly. And so if you actually, again, blend, your business with your family, and you talk about those things at the dinner table around these struggles, then they get to learn exactly the same way that EO works. You learn through experience share, and I think that's really important as well. And when I traveled, my kids have more stamps in their passport before they turn 10 than I think 90% of Americans. And because when I had a trip, if it was over, my thing is, including travel time, 2 weeks is my max, preferably 1.5 weeks. If it's over that, then I take them with me. And people would be a little bit funny about it to start with, and then at the end they were like, okay, so you'll be bringing a family, so we'll make sure we organize some stuff for you to do and some other families to meet. And they would actually acknowledge it without even asking. So when you start setting the terms and not compromising on that, and then other people will start responding in the same way. So people would say, oh, I really want you to speak at my conference. But, I've heard that, you don't want the whole family to fly business class, but you expect me to pay for a family suite because you're bringing them with you. And I'm like, yes, you're correct. So, and then we're blending it, because I get to show my kids another part of the world, another culture. And I would always tap on an extra week for a family holiday. So my team would know that. Same with MIT. When I went to Boston, 4 days I set aside before I even walked back into the business to process that stuff and to think about how to implement that into my business before I step back in. So, I think these things are really important, because my kids now have a different perspective on the role of a woman and also, you know, what's possible for them. So, you know, my kids would say to me when we go out somewhere, you know, does this product have giving embedded in it, Mummy? Like, which charity are we giving to? And I'm like, that doesn't. That's made in China and tested on animals. And no, it doesn't. And they're like, what do you mean? Because they thought that's what the purpose of business was, is to do good. And, you know, and, you know, when they go to school and they say, well, what does your daddy do? They go, oh, stay-at-home dad. He looks after us. Oh, well, what does your mummy do? You know, this perception that, you know, the husband is the working one because of where we live. And, you know, going to schools with other affluent kids, that's just, there are a lot of second wives in those schools. And, you know, my daughters really believe that they can do anything if they're passionate about it, as long as, you know, it doesn't compromise and Mother Earth, and, you know, as long as it fills 5 of their extensions. So we talk 5 things, which is self, obviously. A lot of women don't put their mask on first before helping others. I'd like to see that simulated plane crash, and how many women would actually put their own mask on before helping others. Family, community, work, and then Mother Nature. So I know we only look at 3 in Forum, but I think more in 5, because everyone's always striving, like you say, for that end moment of, I will stop working when, I will pay attention to my family when, I will give back when, and, you know, that's not healthy, because you're living in the future. And as we all know, anything can happen. We've learned that through COVID. We constantly learn this as humans. So if we live in the present, when you're actually content, you're tapping into all 5 of those regularly in a nice rhythm, and they're not massive things. So it's not waiting a year and then taking 2 weeks off to be with the family, and that's ticking the family box. That's not how it works. They need to be constant little things that you're doing all the time. So when I'm feeling out, I'll go, which one of these 5 things is taking more of my time? And I'll go, you know what? I haven't been in Mother Nature a lot lately. I just need to take my shoes off and go and walk and put my feet in the sand at least once a day. Like that's a thing, you know, for me. And it's just that grounding exercise. It takes 15 minutes, but, you know, just making sure that, okay, as soon as I started that behavior, I was like, I could notice that I could then go back, you know, pick the kids up from all their sports, come home, and I'd be a lot more present. So how do we just do little things across our 5 extensions, as opposed to, you know, going, okay, you know, big things that I feel are in the future that unfortunately a lot of the time doesn't happen. Or when it does happen, you're too exhausted. You can't even be present to the moment.
Yeah, it's easy to make up an excuse. Oh, I can't do that. I know when I worked with a business coach for probably 17 years, Kevin Lawrence, and we had our list of all the things that I was in my, you know, the one thing that I really wanted to do is I wanted to take off for a year, set up the business to run without me, and take a year off and travel with my family. So we were knocking off things, and, you know, at the beginning, you know, the big rocks, it takes a long time, and you get the momentum and things start becoming a lot easier to move through. I got to the point where the business was set up and whatnot, and I had a phone call from him, and he said, "Hey, Nigel, you know, there's the last thing on your list. I think we're there." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And he says, "Well, it's taking off for a year and taking your family traveling." And I'm like, "Oh, well, no, I can't because of this. I made up all these. It was all in my head. Everything was in my head, all these excuses." And he says, "Well, what about Reiko, your wife? Like, how does she feel?" And so I yelled across the room, because she was on the other side of the room. I said, "Hey," and thinking that she was going to have all these excuses as well, but she said, "No, let's go. Let's make it happen." And I thought, oh, okay, well, that's so, and we were gone in 3 months, like we were gone out the door, 3 months, Devin, all of us. And it was, but I was making up all this crap in my head that we couldn't do it. And that's how life, you know, it's always, oh, I can't because of I can't because of that. And it's so easier to do that than actually take the leap and go and or the step and go and do it. And I know, like, when you mentioned, you know, taking your family to your meetings and whatnot, I kind of started late. And I think this was actually, for me, this is super cool. I don't know about for Dev, but when we traveled, I did have some business meetings, and we started off in easy places like London. And so we bought you a suit, right, Dev?
Yeah.
we got Dev in a suit, took him into some meetings at the IMO in London doing presentations. And you know what I found? I found when you took your son or your daughter into a meeting, it's a totally different dynamic with the people you're meeting or talking to, your clients. They really respect it. They're like, oh, this is really cool. You're bringing your son or your daughter. Oh, and they engage with the, like, so what are you thinking about doing? Da, da, da. And I'm like, oh, this is, whoa. So we did this a lot. Like we did meetings in suits in London. We were in offshore supply vessels, climbing up the ropes onto a ship that's pitching offshore. And the next thing you know, Dev, you're learning how to run the machine, right?
Yeah. No, it totally. It gave me a whole different perspective on, sorry, on the world, and just seeing everything from a whole different viewpoint, right? Like so caught up in things, being at home and falling into like the normal routine of like, oh, this is life. I go to school, I have friends, I try to get some money so I can buy some clothes or whatever it was, right? But having that opportunity to go to those meetings and just see the world, it totally changed, I think, the person that I was. Definitely for the better, just to see different perspective and just like look at the world a completely different way and realize that, like, not that all those things aren't important that I valued, but they had there's people living all places in the world that have a totally different life than I do and have more things or less things or whatever, but it's not about the things, it's about the people and the love and in your life that you should share. So I think it just gave me a whole different view on the world. So when I came back home, I was just like, I felt like I was a little bit of a different person mentally.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I don't know if I've ever told you this, Dev, but
yeah.
So having you in the meetings with me really meant a lot to me and to everybody, and I think it was super cool. And when you and Kina, your daughter, my daughter, or your sister, you guys wanted to, I was like, what do you guys want to do? And it was just like, oh, we want to go to acting school. I'm like, acting school, okay, whatever. Well, the best places in the world for that is probably in London or in New York. So we were in London, so you guys went to acting school, right? And so you did your acting school thing for 6 weeks or whatnot. It was a really super cool experience. And then we went back into going to all the business meetings with my business and my company, and we're all over the world. We're meeting with our agents and all that. We're offshore supply vessels. Then we're in Brazil after like 8 or 9 months of this whole tour, been through Myanmar and Bhutan and all this. And then you say, I think I want to go home because I want to become an actor. I want to go to acting school and I have to audition to get in. And I'm like, what? Okay. But it really, the cool thing is like doing what we did really opened you up and opened your eyes. And so you grabbed your own flight, flew back home, and ended up going to acting school, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah, no, totally. Because until that point in my life, I was like, well, I'm going to work for your company because that's what you do. And when your dad has a company, that's what you're going to do with your life. And I was actually very terrified to tell you that I wanted to be an actor. And I've always wanted to be an actor. And I think going to that workshop in London there really sparked something in me, and it sparked like some creative drive. And I said, you know what, I'd like to take a serious swing at this. So yeah, made the choice to go home and go to acting school. And I've been very fortunate to have quite a good career at this point. So I'm glad I made the choice, and I'm glad that you weren't upset with me, because you understand that people have different goals and aspirations in life, and that what you're driven to do, you should go and do, rather than you being like, no, you have to work for my company. So that was quite the
I actually found that when I traveled, like I'd go to Japan, I'd go to, especially in Asia, I found it, and in South America, I'd found it. It's like, oh, how many kids you have? Oh, I got 2 boys. Oh, the boys. Oh, are they going to take over the business? When are they taking? I'm like, I don't think so. And so they can do whatever they want. And I almost get frowned upon a little bit. It's like, well, the oldest son or the son always takes over the business. I'm like, well, not in my world. It's not,
yeah, right.
It's not. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. But if that's not,
Yeah,
sorry, Tamara, we were kind of going on a bit there.
Oh, I love the reminiscing. It's lovely. It's beautiful to hear the dynamics. My kids are still, just first one has just turned 13 in a couple of weeks, so just getting into the teenage years. But what's interesting is I sell businesses. I build and sell them.
Right.
So I'm also a shareholder in a $20 million fund, and we invest in businesses. And they're kind of the opposite. The youngest one is like, I really like this one, Mommy. Can you not sell it? Because I'd really like to do this when I grow up. Which is great. So, because I'm always like, you do what you're passionate about. I don't care if it's an actor, a veterinarian, a philanthropist, as long as your core values are intact, and as long as you're showing up and you're harnessing your seed of potential, and you're doing positive, then that's the basis of what I kind of say. This is what I want my children to be able to aspire to. And then the rest is open, because when my young one went to preschool, they had their little preschool graduation, and they had to hold up a plaque and write what they wanted to be when they grew up, which is quite, I think, a damaging exercise to crystallize something at such a young age. And she wrote all these things. She wanted to be a babysitter, a vet, tons of things, maybe 6 or 7 things. And the teacher got up her and said, no, you need to pick one. I said, pick one thing. And she's a bit headstrong. She's the headstrong one out of the two. And she went, no, my mum has had lots of careers. She has been a songwriter. She is a property developer. She had a marketing agency. She is now an investor. She's in beauty and wellness, and she's had this brand and this brand and this brand and this brand, and she just offloaded. And she speaks, and she's on TV, and she, and she just kept going and going and going. And then this teacher was just like, when I picked her up, she's like, who are you? I'm like, just an entrepreneur. It's kind of funny, but my daughter was like, no, you can, the whole idea of life is to evolve and grow and to, experience as many beautiful things in this lifetime as you possibly can. And to her, everything was on the table until this teacher decided to say, you must pick one thing. Wow. And, I feel, society, whether it be the teachers saying, what are you going to study at university? What are you going to be when you grow up? What about just, I want to be a good person who makes positive impact and takes, gives more than I take. That'd be really great if teachers said that, and if parents said that. Yeah. And if we just gave them the freedom of saying, these are the 2 things, which, by the way, those things are huge. Just alone, if we just gave that to them, and rather than saying you must pick a university, you must pick a career, I've never asked my children that once, never. In fact, I take it away from them more than I do. I'm like, I think I'm going to sell this one. No, Mommy, please give me the option. So, I think it's really important that, your kids understand that those are the criteria, and then anything outside of that is pure imagination. Yeah. And whatever you want to create, and anything is possible. And, and it needs to be something that fills your bucket. So, when the kids go, oh, you're going away again, they're more whining because they like the convenience of me being around, and, they prefer my cooking, I think, to my husband's as well. But, I say, well, hang on a second. Mummy gets to go have fun. You get to go surf and skateboard and, go to these festivals. Like, my daughter is quite a good skateboarder. And, I go, you get to have fun. Does Mummy get to have fun with her friends? And that's literally how they see my work. Right. So it's not like I have to go because somebody's got to put food on this table, and this lifestyle and this house of living on the beach doesn't come without some, really. Yeah. do we? Is that when Nickelodeon got the green slime thing? Do they see parents doing that? Yeah, that's right. Green slime. Yeah. I feel like that's what you're doing. Say that. So anyway, I really liked what actually your daughter was doing there in class, and actually Devin and I have been talking about that a little bit recently. Well, remember we talked to Cohegan, Dev? Yeah. And what was he was saying that
fractional entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Fractional entrepreneurship. So the younger people, a lot of younger people these days are this, and I never heard of this. What the heck is fractional entrepreneurship? Well, it's exactly what you said. It's doing a multitude of things that you enjoy. And I see that, like you, Dev, my gosh, all the different things that you're doing, all the different things that Kina are like, she's 21. She's like dog walking business, dog grooming thing, worked at a vet, ski instructor in Japan, knitting, doing like selling, like it's just all these different businesses she's got going. And I'm like, oh my gosh, slow down. Like you're completely crazy. Yeah. And, but it's, they're all happy doing it, and they have more energy doing that than finding that one little thing and stepping in. And I don't know. Yeah.
And don't you think when you look back and you go, like, to me, when I look at the fact that I was a songwriter, and I remember my dad said to me when I went to university to study art, he was like, that's a hobby, that's not a career.
That's what they used to say. I know.
So I had to put myself through uni because he was not happy with that decision. He's like, why did you work so hard at school to get such great grades, and you don't even need grades to get into being an artist? But I think what was really interesting is the fact that when I look back at songwriting and that experience of being a professional songwriter, because we had one day to write a whole song, and you get the brief in the morning, you know what their vocal range is, you get BPMs, you get a full brief, right? And you're kind of like, be creative on demand, like get it out and make sure you deliver. And just that exercise of learning how to go from your room when you would spend weeks formulating a song in your head and playing around, dabbling on the keyboard, to, okay, you've got this much time. The artists that, the performers are coming in at 2:00. We've got all the musicians. You better have something ready, lyrics, everything. Wow. So that creative process has been really good for me as an entrepreneur, because now, I mentor a lot of female businesses, and, I quite often go onto YPO businesses and they say, come in and do our strategy. Like, what is our why? And, I'm known as taking the Simon Sinek model and being able to create that for businesses. And, I think that's why a lot of my businesses have been successful, is because they have a very strong why at their core. And I always start with why. Yeah. And so I can go into someone's business and they might be doing 100 million and they still don't know what their why is. Yeah. And I can figure it out and go through a creative process in less than a day and define a really powerful why. And they go, how do you do that? And when I look back on how do I do it? Because I think, could I train someone in that? And then I go, no, this is something that you learn over time, being creative under pressure, and, refining that art of being able to go into that zone and being able to understand, messaging, and 10 years of running a marketing agency and being able to see what works and work with so many different brands. All these experiences come together in order for you to be who you are at that moment. So, I don't think any of it, you wouldn't trade any of it. If, that whole question of, would you go back? What would you change if you could go back and tell your younger self? I'm like, I would be too worried what trajectory that would flip me to. And, I met my husband in London. And I was at a music festival for my music in Morocco, and I just finished climbing the Burma Mountains. Yeah. And I went there and performed at, at a festival that Stevie Wonder performed at. And I was one night in London, and he was managing the hotel, and we said 3 things together. So imagine if I hadn't have done my songwriting. Like, my husband wouldn't be there. If I had to listen to my dad, I wouldn't be who I am right now. If I had to follow that path of you should become a lawyer, I mean, that would just be soul destroying. I know. So anyway, I just think let them, make sure that they are true to their values, that they're doing the right thing by other people and the planet, and the rest is for them to create. It's a canvas, and go have fun. And, exactly. Say yes to Picasso's,
I know. I like what you said about the why too, because Simon Sinek was a speaker at one of our conclave years. It was like 10, maybe longer than 10 years ago at MIT. And I'd never heard this, find your why. What am my why? What are you talking about? What's my why? But, and it was like I was dealing with my company. I was in the process of possibly selling it or whatnot. And I really didn't know. And the name of my company is AquaGuard. So it's AquaGuard Spill Response. And I looked at it and he says, well, what's the why of my company? What's the why of my company? And I was just like, oh my God, that's what it is. It's AquaGuard. It means protect water. The why for the company is to protect the world's most precious resource, water. And it took it from thinking very, very in a small way about we clean up oil spills to protecting the world's most precious resource. I got on the plane, my head was just, it exploded. And I've been trying to live everything since that moment forward on we're protecting the world's most precious resource, is freaking water. That's what it is. And that's what I need to be doing, So yeah, so huge. I think that was
what you do
for me.
by why you do it. Isn't that what he says?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
That's the saying, which I love. And I find that, it also is great for the whole team because we know what our why is.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets you through those hard times, because if you're standing for more, if you stand for profit and purpose, and the times there's no profit, you can at least get up every day and fight the fight and do the work and, stay positive because you still have that purpose. And I think that's really important and missing from a lot of companies, because again, they try and put the purpose on their other extensions of being, like family or community or whatever it is. And it's important that it's also in your work. It has to spend the most time there. So, I work with my friends. Friends know, look, if you want to spend time with Tamara, you have to go work with her, because she's a workaholic, but you'll get to spend heaps of time with her.
Yeah.
And it's great. So we blended,
Yeah. I had actually I think it was in 2012. I was going through a whole thing about selling my business to a British firm, and I was having a really, really tough time. And then our family we were fortunate to go deep into the Amazon with a lady called Lynn Twist with the Pachamama Alliance and spend time with an Ashwar tribe. And we did ceremony, and I had a vision in there. And basically this vision was just like, Nigel, what are you, selling your company for? Maybe take your company off the table for now and leverage your network that you've built, this network of people for 30 plus years, and leverage the heck out of them to do good in the world. And so you maybe take it back for a bit, and that's, and that's basically what I did. I flew to London, I took it off the table. And then from that moment forward, for the past, it's 10 years, my gosh, since 2012. That's what I've been doing, is I've been spending some time in my business, but most of my time doing other things that hopefully I could use my platform to do good. And if there's some little tiny thing that I can do, or some young person that wants to have a coffee with a new business idea or whatever it is, I'm game to do it. And I've just been having so much fun. And it looks like exactly that's, what you're doing. I think it's wonderful. It's really refreshing to speak to people like yourself. And again, especially women. I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, thank you, Tamara, so much for taking the time. Because I know you. Yeah, I know. More of them on the show. That's right. I believe it or not, I just got back from 3 weeks in Peru with my beautiful wife. We're 33 years married this year. And the whole journey was our Devin's good friend, Jamie Alvarez, who's a shaman or curandero from Cusco, Peru. We just spent 3 weeks with him in the north, and it was Jamie and I were the only guys, and there were 7 or 8 women on the trip. It was all women, myself and Jamie, and we had a incredible. I can't even talk about it. We need 3 episodes to talk about it. Oh, yeah, again, that's really
life-changing.
Yeah.
I think COVID has really been hard for women, and I think we're searching inwards. Yes. And we're kind of lost. We've lost trust in governments. We're exhausted, and sometimes when you get back to that core, you kind of go, what am I doing? Like, what is the purpose of this? Why am I stuck in this corporate gray? Is my only existence to pay bills and, to build somebody else's business? So whilst everyone's talking about the negative effects of that, I'm also talking about the positive, because, we're taking, a lot of women are searching, they're going to Peru, they're turning up at our bazaar gatherings, we're talking about stuff that is real. We're not doing stupid vision boards about what house and car and shit we want. We're about, what do we want to do while we're on this planet? What is our purpose? What makes us excited? What fills our bucket? And most women aren't driven by money. we want enough to be able to give back and to be able to look after our families and, you know, a few niceties here and there. But really, that's not a core driver for us. It rarely makes people happy. And you would know that with men as well. Like, you know, we know some very rich people who are unhappy. So
yeah.
I think women know that. They never go after that as hard, I feel. So, you know, I think it's open for a whole other conversation around, you know, what is our existence? So, you know, spiritually going inward, how do we age gracefully as we get older, you know, without being invisible? You know, I'm 45 and I refuse to be invisible. And, you know, I still have lots to give. And
well, some of the most incredible people that I know and in the past 10 or 15 years that we've become really close and really good friends with are older women. And I mean, you know, Lynn Twist, she is one of the most inspirational women I've ever met. She's a firecracker. And she's, I'm not going to say how old she is, but she's an older lady, right? And then all these other, they're all in their plus 60s and above, right? And they are changing the world and they're absolutely incredible. And yeah, so yeah, it's, yeah, I mean, I could share, I had another, well, I'll talk to you offline about sometime about, I had another vision this time in Peru, and it was all, I just tell you very quickly, I won't, people think I'm crazy, but we did ceremony with
Thank you for getting we're on a podcast.
I know. We did ceremony. Devin's been to Peru several times and done ceremony with Jamie as well. And so I did ceremony with my wife and all these ladies. And I had, you know, something speak to me in a way. Again, it's happened quite a few times. And it was, and I don't know how this came about, but it basically said that the future is going to be run by women. We have to have a much softer way of running our planet, and more nurturing and more community. And women are going to be the new leaders. There are going to be men involved, but it's mostly going to be women moving forward into the future. And I was like, I woke up out of this. I'm like, what? Like, why are you telling me this? That's kind of the message I got. It was very interesting.
I mean, I don't think it's about who wins either. I think masculine and feminine, divine, you know, both energies are really
the energy. It's the feminine energy, I should say. Yeah,
exactly. I think the two of them, when they're together, and you know, there's a lot of women, particularly in politics, that show up in masculinity.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it works both ways, and there's some pretty heart-centered men as well. You know. That are making some positive change, especially in my forum. My chapter, I'm so blessed to be with, you know, people like Florian and Amar, and just some great human beings doing some great things. So, you know, I think what we need to do is let's not talk about gender, but let's talk about you know, our values and, you know, how do we want to show up? And I think we need to give permission to men to be able to tap into their feminine side, and then I think, you know, we need you know, to find men who are willing to help bridge that gap, and women who are willing to help with that as well. Because, you know, I really do believe, like you said, when we're talking about women who run businesses, I mean, I would be surprised to come across any woman that would compromise profits and say, well, you know, we're going to make more profit, but we're going to use child labor, or, you know, let's use deforestation. Like, women just don't tend to make those sorts of decisions because it goes, you know, they don't sleep well at night. So, you know, I think that consciousness in business is really important, and that gut intuition. If, you know, women naturally have a head-heart coherency, and, you know, we're told to cut off that bit, but that's actually the bit that's the most important. So, you know, how do we come together and learn from each other, you know, your way of doing business efficiently? And, you know, it is a battle. You know, you have to be a warrior to be in business. That's just how it is. But then, you know, how do we mix that, you know, with the human to human factors, not this B2B or B2C, this H to H, and, you know, showing up with that head heart coherency and that consciousness. I really feel the two, if they came together, especially in environments, we have that way to do that in EO and YPO. We're together anyway, and we're having these conversations. How do we be more intentional? Then I think, you know, we could really make some positive impact very quickly. And excites me. I mean, I've got goosebumps just thinking about it. So
yeah.
Anyway, now you've got me started.
Wow.
I will end it on that.
No, well, thanks.
The longest podcast.
Just one. No, you're just wonderful. That's just fantastic. I know Dev got any little final?
Yeah, no, I guess we'll probably wrap it up on that, guys. If you like what we're doing, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to know anything more about Tamara, we'll put all of that in the links in the description of the video. Other than that, thank you so much for coming on today. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you for having me and everything that you're doing inside your business and inside your family, inside your community. I appreciate you.
No, I very much appreciate you. And it's so nice to chat with you. And I think I may have seen you at some events or something because you look very, very familiar. So thank you. Really, really appreciate it.
I am a little bit of an EO junkie.
Yeah.
I do like the events. My husband does too. So
yeah, I haven't been to a university for a while, but you have to start.
Yeah. None of us have.
No, I know that's true. That's a good point.
I think the last one was Mexico. But
talking about oh, it's just.
Well, I look forward to meeting your wife and and
he
has an open door here anytime.
Oh, cheers! Likewise up here. Yeah. Thanks, Tamara, so much.
Take care.
Take care.